you watched any of my videos over the past month or so, you would have noticed that anything that I blasted in here was blasted in some pretty ugly water. Now, I've used and abused this one for a while now, and the media and the water inside of it are looking pretty horrible. So I've decided it's about time to go change that out, have a bit of a service, maybe give it a bit of a clean on the inside. And then I mentioned in one of the videos I did a couple of weeks back about blasting bearings, that if I come across a bearing that's in worse shape, I'll bring that in and I'll give a better demonstration. Now, that last one wasn't overly rusty, it was a bit jammed up, but it wasn't actually that bad. So I want to find one that's, well, I found that I want to take one that's really seized up and really rusty and run that through and just show you the sort of finish that you can get on them. So like I say, I'll change that water out, give it a clean on the inside, make it look a little bit nicer, and then get it ready for any of the stuff that I'm going to blast over the next couple of weeks. So I'll just run through that quickly now. So the first thing I'm going to do is just drain all the last of the water out. So the water in there is pretty dirty. I want to get that out first so I can run through, use the air pressure and use the pump and everything, get it all churning up, and the cleaner water in there will do the first stage of cleaning. So I want to get all the dirty stuff out, replace it with some clean stuff, and then I'll go through and clean the inside. So let's get that out of the way. Now there's about 15 litres in here, so it's going to take a couple of trips with this bucket. Now if you've set up your reservoir right, a lot of people will have one where you take the whole reservoir out, but if it's part of your setup, then if you've set it up right, the drain for the water should be above where your media sits. So you should be able to drain the water out of your reservoir without losing any media. With the water drained, I'm now going to put cleaner stuff in there and use that to wash out the inside of the cabinet and give the beads a bit of a rinse. Now this will get drained out again later so that we get as much of the dirty stuff out as possible, and when we put the newer stuff in, there's less contaminants left within the reservoir to make that dirty. So let's get this in there and then we'll go through the next step. So the next thing I do, and you're not going to be able to see very well because it's pretty grubby in there, but the next thing I do is with the solenoid connected and the pump off, so it's just fresh water, I just go around and just give everything a bit of a blast up off the sides there, get as much of the media back down into the reservoir as I can. As you can probably see, it's still pretty dirty in there, even after that rinse, and I don't know if you can see how dirty it is. The water in there has already picked up a lot of that filth. So before I go and dump that out, I just want to get a sponge. I use a car wash sponge. Obviously don't use it again for washing cars. If there's any glass embedded in it, it'll scratch the hell out of your car. But yeah, I'll just put a little bit of detergent on it, a wet sponge, and I'll just go through and rinse it out on the inside. Now remember, this water's getting dropped out of it anyway and replaced with fresh stuff, so don't get too worried if you put too much detergent in there. One thing to be aware of, if you do put too much detergent in there and you do run the pump while you're rinsing this out, you run a high likelihood of foaming up in your reservoir and having a big mess of foam to deal with, so just keep that in mind. So it's not perfect, but it's a lot better than it was, and given that I'm running out of time today, I'm just going to press on. So we'll put some fresh stuff in it, and then we'll get on to having a look at that bearing. So just as before, we're going to drain the water back out and leave the media. The reason I'm leaving the media at this stage is that it is dirty, it's filthy, but it's just done some crappier parts, so the water has been tainted. It does look ugly and it is obscuring my my view. But the beads haven't actually been in there that long. They'll probably go a little bit longer, and the work that's coming out is still has quite a good luster in it. It's not scratching up like the beads have been broken just yet. It's not perfect, but it's still going to last a little bit longer. So I don't want to change the media just yet. So that said, I'll just continue to dump out all the water that we just put in. That's now changed it with all the stuff that we've cleaned up from inside of the cabinet. And with the detergents, we're going to dump that out, put some fresh stuff in, and then see how we look. So now that we've got all the old water out, the tainted water out with the detergent in it, I'm going to put some fresh stuff in. And once we're filled up, I'll go ahead and re-rinse the cabinet and then just see how we look. So before we get into it, I just want to show you this bearing. I've held it pretty tight in the middle there, and I'm trying to turn it. And it's just not turning at all. So it's well and properly seized. You could probably soak it in diesel to get it freed up, and then, I don't know, find another way of scrubbing it to get it out, but that's not the purpose of this video. The purpose of this video is to show you how quickly and easily it'll free these up, and just what they sound like afterwards, the kind of condition you can bring it back into. A few people left comments on the other video saying they quite often blast bearings, or they've run bearings on equipment that are a bit rumbly, and they've run it for years and years and years without issue. Braver than myself. Like I said in the last video, that I'd pretty much just use them in a case of an emergency when I needed to get something going, and then replace them in the long run. But if the equipment's not so crucial and you're just using it every now and again, I guess it's up to you. If you're happy to use it while it's rumbling away there, then go for gold. Otherwise, this is good to get something back up and running before you get them replaced while you're waiting on replacement parts. So then, just to show you again, well and properly seized, we'll chuck it in the cabinet. We'll do a couple of test pieces. So you'll see in a second. I'm just about to put the compressor on, so I'm not sure how well you'll hear. Usually you can hear me over the compressor, but I've got this old piece here. It's actually a broken part off a motor. It holds a cam angle sensor. See, I've already done a bit of a test on one of my other cabinets there, but it's still pretty scotty. We'll see how that comes up, and we've got the bearing in there too. So we'll see how well we can clean that up. Just as I turn that on, you'll see it's still pretty dirty. Still got a little bit of the detergent in there, but I guess could probably do with another round of flushing. I don't have time to do that right now. I guess I'll do it next time. But it's brought the cabinet up to a point where I'm happy to use it a bit more often. It's not as bad as it was before. It's a bit cleaner, and it'll work perfectly for the purposes of cleaning up these two parts. So I'll just go get the compressor started. Right, so it is filled up. Let's get into this. I haven't covered cleaning the outside of the cabinet, but that's pretty well self-explanatory. So let's give it a test on this piece, and then we'll get into the bearing. Apologies for the view, it's a little hard to see in there. You can see that Scody as there. That's the top right hand corner with a broken part on the left. Let's see how it comes up. So that came out really quick. This goes to show a clean machine works a hell of a lot better. So that was really quick, and actually, I don't know how well you can see in there, let me pull it out. That bearing was just sitting in there and it's already had some of the scale come off there. You can see the housings for the balls have already come up a little bit better, and that was just sitting in the background. So let's get that back in there and we'll see how well we can bring it up. It's very difficult to see in this one. Another thing that I didn't do that I usually do when I service is to replace the wiper blade. So there we go, that's a bit better. So once again, you can see it's already started bringing that up. Let's just see, yeah, it's still seized up. So let's hit it again and we'll see how long it takes to bring that up to a point where it's free again. Issue with the camera here is that it just depends on where it's kind of sitting in there. But you can see that only took a couple of seconds and it's already brought it up pretty well. Like I say, I'm running out of time, so I'm just going to go through and hit it as best as I can, and hopefully you'll be able to see what I'm doing. It's a bit of a mess, like I say, without having that replacement wiper blade in there. It's a lot harder to see, but hopefully you'll be able to see enough, and then I'll come back and I'll show you how well it's come up in the end. And that's it starting to move. And we'll have another go in there. Hard to grip it with these gloves, so I'm just going to pull it out, blow some air through it so I can grip it better, get it moving, and then I'll come back and finish it up. So a whole bunch more freed up. We're just going to keep going around and make sure we get all the spots that we might have missed while it was bound. There we go, we're all done. It's a bit noisy. You could probably do a little bit better in there, but like I say, I'm running out of time. And there's no oil on this or anything, so if I leave it like this, it'll end up looking a lot like it did before. And like I say, anything really heavy that you're going to run on this sort of thing, I think if you pack this with grease, like if it was a trailer bearing or something, it probably wouldn't be too bad. You'd probably get away with it as long as there's no big divots in there. I'm trying to get a bit of light. Very hard to see on the inside of the races, but they actually came up quite nicely. So yeah, not the best plan of attack, and I wouldn't be doing this as regular practice, but yeah, if you need bearings, it'll do it. I'll put up a picture before and after shot. I'll hold that over this side. I guess I'll have room. Get it in focus. I'll have room. I'll bring up a screenshot of what it looked like before. So yeah, a little bit noisy, but you saw the damage that had been done to it. Right for emergencies, but I'd try to avoid it if really needed.